something's gone wrong. I thought I was going to be performing at the semi-final of the Roald Dahl's Estates children's bath time story competition. So I don't know what they were just talking about, but I've got a children's story for ages 7 to 9. I'm just gonna do it. Hi kids! Do you want to hear a story?
Yes!
We can do better than that. Do you want to hear a story?
Yes!
Oh, what's your name, buddy?
Val?
Val, nice. How old are you?
Oh, 24.
That's so big. And can you ride a bike?
There or thereabouts.
Yeah, with or without stabilizers?
Without on a good day.
Nice, nice. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Not working.
Not working. Ooh. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I guess ideally, I would love to go to the moon.
Oh yeah. When I was your age, how old are you? 7. Yes. When I was your age, I really wanted to go to the moon. And buddy, if you went to the moon, would you make sure that you always did what was right?
Yeah, and get a lot of cheese.
Yeah. All right, rein it in. But would you always do what was right?
I would like to think so.
Yeah. But sometimes, kids, it's hard to do what's right. So I've got a story here about a little beetle called Bertie, who once had to do what was right, even though it was very hard to do. Bertie, the little beetle. Bertie was a little beetle. He had a little beetle head, little beetle legs, and a little beetle balaclava tied his little beetle identity. His little beetle Molotov cocktail flew through the air before igniting the little beetle police car amidst the pandemonium of the little beetle riot, which had broken out in the centre of the little beetle city. Little beetle batons came crushing down on the heads of little beetle bystanders and rioters alike. Little beetle bodies lay in the street still as the little beetle pigs advanced to crush all little beetle dissent. They turned to Bertie, whose little beetle missile had stopped them in their tracks, and began to chase him. His little beetle legs carried him as fast as they could, running down little beetle streets and little beetle alleyways, attempting to escape the grasp of the little beetle fuzz. He passed a little beetle comrade bleeding out in the little beetle street as the little beetle coppers continued to beat his little beetle body mercilessly. He couldn't stop, but that little beetle image was burned into his little beetle mind. Distracted by the little beetle trauma, he took a wrong turn and ended up in a little beetle dead end. The little beetle roses rained down little beetle fists on our little beetle friend Bertie, crunching his little beetle exoskeleton and throwing him violently onto little beetle death's door. Before Bertie could ascend to little beetle heaven, they stopped, scooped up his little beetle body and threw it into the back of a little beetle van to take him away to little beetle jail. There, they gave him enough little beetle medicine to keep him little beetle going, but not enough to make him little beetle healthy. Over the following days, the little beetle insurrection was in fact crushed. And in the aftermath, it emerged that little beetle Bertie's little beetle Molotov cocktail had snuffed out one of the little beetle bobbies. The little beetle press was plastered with this little beetle story, ignoring the dozens of little beetle martyrs killed by the little beetle class traitors defending little beetle private property. The little beetle bourgeoisie were outraged at the little beetle violence, ignoring the ruthlessness of their little beetle states and the unimaginable little beetle suffering caused by the continued existence of little beetle capitalism that the little beetle proletarian heroes were trying to overthrow. Bertie was put on a little beetle show trial. He couldn't defend himself because his little beetle injuries left him too weak. Within a day, The Little Beetle jury found him Little Beetle guilty and sentenced him to Little Beetle death. Aww. As Bertie stood on the Little Beetle gallows with a Little Beetle noose around his Little Beetle neck, he thought about his Little Beetle life and found Little Beetle peace. He had done what he could and paved the way for future Little Beetle emancipation. The Little Beetle trapdoor fell away, and his Little Beetle neck was snapped by the Little Beetle blade. His Little Beetle legs twitched a couple of times before his lifeless Little Beetle body became still. The Little Beetle crowd roared. They jeered, then went back to their Little Beetle lives, forgetting what happened. For now.